One of the things that I've been speaking against over the last several years is this wicked business that's mamash the Satan himself attacking Am Yisrael again with cash advance. In so many words, lending money with high interest. Now, everyone knows that a Jew is not allowed to lend another Jew money in charge of interest. Now, of course, there's if a Jew is a mechalel Shabbat, his halachic treatment is as if he's a goy. So technically, if you did charge him interest, you're allowed to. Rabbi paskins that way, and many other paskin that way. But they don't recommend you doing it anyway, simply because it'll get you used to charging Jews interest. And number two, if he does tshuva, you have a very serious problem. So generally speaking, Jews charging other Jews interest is a very, very bad idea, because whoever's involved in the transaction, whether it's the lender, the borrower, the broker, all of them have no Olam Haba. All of them are in very, very serious problems. So you would think, oh, this is clear cut, this is known already throughout all of our history. What's the problem? The problem is that Jews are known for being in the lending business throughout all of history. Even from the time of Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech made a takana, Jews are not allowed to be in the lending business and charge interest. Not Jews and not Goyim. Of course, not everybody listened. And throughout all of history, we've had many, many problems because of it. So now, over the last 20, 30 years, this horrific business of cash advance has picked up its steam, and it's caused a lot of trouble, where the majority of the most successful companies in that business, in that high interest lending business, are not only Jews, but they're Jews that are religious. They have the shtreimel, they have the hat, they have the rabbinical title, they have the kollel background, they have the yeshiva background, and so on and so forth. You go into an office, you think it's a kollel. Go into an office, you think it's a yeshivat mir. But the reality is, it's a world apart. It's a world apart, and it's an entire industry. It's not one or two companies. We're talking about hundreds of companies. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars that are being lent, and they're being lent at very, very high interest. The normal bank rates today with low interest rates, 4, 5, 6%. If you have bad credit, let's say 10, 12, credit card, 25%, that's it, finished. Other than that, go to the mafia if you want to pay more. But in so many words, that's where it goes. Cash advance business, if you have a really nice guy and he's not an outright murderer, he's going to charge you 45 to 50%. But if he's a standard normal cash advance person, 80 to 400%. Now, this is gezel. It's not considered lending. It's considered stealing. I had an event, I was sitting with Rav Gidon ben Moshe just last week. I was talking to him about this business. Rabbi Yaron ben Moshe is not only one of the Gedolei Ador, but he's also the Av Bedin of business in Yerushalayim. Meaning, you're not going to get anyone that knows more about business in the halachic aspects of it than Rav Gidon. I'm starting to tell him about it. Within the first few minutes, he says, "You ruined my dinner." I said, "Well," he goes, "This is gezel, what you're telling me. It's a stealing. You're telling me Jewish people are dealing with it?" I said, "Not just Jewish people, rabbis. We're talking about people that are, frumer than frum, are behind this business." He says, even Eter Iska would not work on such a business. Before I even told him that they give Eter Iska, he already told me, even Eter Iska is null and void for such a business. You can't use Eter Iska for such a thing. 40%, 50% interest, 400%, needless to say. So now, Rabotai, what's happened is that we have a history of this. I've done a handful of shurim, maybe more, maybe 10 shurim or so, give or take, about this business with all types of sources from the Torah about how it's forbidden. Rabbi Ephraim, God bless him, he wrote a tshuva, which B'ezrat Hashem we're going to publish in the next Sefer, Achtov L'Yisrael. 17 pages, halachic tshuva, and in so many words, when you read this tshuva, if you understand what it says, you have to be a Talmid Chacham a little bit to understand some of the lingo, but you understand this tshuva, and you don't even know how did somebody get himself to such a hole. Because the hole is so big here, it's so obvious that it's a hole. You're like, this is the Grand Canyon. How did they not know? How did these rabbis not know and continue not knowing and continue writing a teriska for this illegal business? This business that's full of corruption, this business that's full of Chilul Hashem. And in this Tshuva, Rabotai Yekarim, you're going to see a few things where it's literally unbelievable that there are actually any Jewish people, needless to say religious Jewish people, in this business. There's actually a point of why I'm giving and why I'm telling you this, believe me. It's not just just for another shiur to be out there, which I'll get to in a moment. Here he says, first and foremost, a person needs to know that lending money and charging interest has a lot of problems altogether. That we already covered. Many of the Chachamim, including Shlomo HaMelech, forbid it. Forbid charging interest. Now you're going to tell, yeah, they forbid it for the Jews. No. The prohibition is to not charge goyim interest. It's needless to say, the Torah forbids you from charging Jews interest. The Torah already forbids you from charging interest. When the Chachamim got involved into it and started clarifying the law, it says, no. Now you also have to understand that there's also a limitation of what you're allowed to charge the goyim. People think that if you're allowed to charge the goyim interest, you're allowed to charge whatever you want. Some say you're not allowed to charge them anything. But some that say that you're allowed to charge them say that it has to have only one of two conditions. Either because you're a Talmid Chacham, and therefore you have a limited amount of time to work, because you're learning Torah all day. So you do, let's say, one loan a month, just to make ends meet. Or you're only doing it just enough to make ends meet. You're not a Talmid Chacham, but you're doing it just enough to pay your minimum bills, not your luxury, your boat, and your second car, and your fifth house. No, you're doing, meaning even the ones that allow charging the goyim interest, limited to two categories. Either you're a Talmid Chacham, and since you're going to deal with with other people that are goyim, you're not going to be affected by them because you're learning a lot of Torah. If you're a Talmid Chacham and you're in that level, you're allowed to do as much as you want of it. On the other hand, if you're a regular person, you're allowed to do it. Minimum amount, the maximum amount is just to pay your bills. But literally, you're living, just a few lines above poverty level. You're not building any mansions with this. So now the Ran, one of the Rishonim, says, in his generation, 800 years ago, how did all of the rabbis that allow these lending to happen and all of the people that are allowing themselves to be in the lending business all turn into Talmidei Chachamim suddenly? Because surely they're making much more than what they need to live. They're doing a lot more. And we're talking about 800 years ago. So they must be Talmidei Chachamim. How could they all be Talmidei Chachamim? I've never heard of any of these people. So if he's talking about in his generation 800 years ago, needless to say in our generation, all of these people, okay, so you're religious, you keep Shabbat, you went to yeshiva for a few years, but it doesn't make you a Talmid Chacham. The more you read Talmidei Chachamim, the more you realize how far, people are from Talmidei Chachamim. So how did everybody become Talmidei Chachamim all of a sudden? They could do this. So now, the exceptions that are actually made are so precise that most Chachamim, they talk about this as this is obviously forbidden. And again, it's not forbidden just for the Jew. The Jew is already a pshita. Everybody knows you're not going to lend the Jews money. We're talking about lending money with interest to goyim. But now the lending money with interest to goyim that everybody's talking about, that it is permissible under those conditions, what kind of lending is it? It's lending with interest. That maximum rate is what's permissible by the government. That's the average rate. Meaning, let's say if it's bank rates, the bank is average, let's say 10%, that's what you're allowed to charge. You're not allowed to charge 15% or 20% or 15%. No, you're not allowed to do that. So needless to say, you're not allowed to charge 50 and 100 and 200%. No one allows that in history. Even the most liberal of opinions doesn't allow such a thing. That everyone conclusively calls gezer. That's outright stealing. So now the Chachamim are saying here that this is not a recent problem only. This is a problem that many have been trying to toil into to permit it and to try to make money out of this situation for years by twisting halacha. their opinions were twisted, their minds were twisted, so they said, listen, yeah, but you have a Rambam that says that, in a pasuk in the Torah, it says that Nochi Tashich, that you're not allowed to charge the Jew interest, but the Nochi, you charge interest. So the Abarbanel says, no, you're not understanding the verse. You're not understanding the Rambam. It doesn't say that there's a mitzvah to charge the goy interest. What he's saying is, if you're a Jew and you're borrowing money from the goy, make sure to pay him the interest that you agreed to pay him. La nochi tashich, the nochi, the goy that you agreed to pay him interest, pay him the interest. Why? Because if you don't pay him the interest, it's Chilul Hashem. So make sure to stand by your word. That's all it says. That's what the Abarbanel says. You thought that what you think that Hashem says is a special mitzvah to charge the goyim interest. Why? And anyway, even if you want to say lanochi tashich, that you're allowed to charge the goy an interest, where do you see a nochi in the world today? Who is the nochi? The nochi is the 7 Canaanite nations. That's who the nochi is. Edom and Ishmael, they're not the nochi, they're not the Canaanite nations. Edom and Ishmael, they're called in the Torah achicha. They're called your brothers. Meaning that even if you want to use the permission to the verse to say that charge the nochi interest, you still can't charge the Christians and the Catholics and the Arabs the interest. You still can't do it. Why? They're not Canaanites. There's no Canaanites in the world. So here you see that when the Chachamim toil with this, you're like, wait, how does somebody allow this still? What are they relying on? What are they relying on to allow an entire empire of business to literally make billions of dollars, and many buildings are being built, because some religious buildings are being built because of the money that's being made from this industry, and I would say many are being built because of this industry. What are they all relying on? That's the one thing that you keep scratching your head and trying to figure out. It's not like, okay, if you're talking about the secular world, people that are connected to pornography, they're connected to casinos, they're connected to all types of, bad things. It's like, yeah, they're relying on nothing. They're relying on their own opinions. But here you're talking about rabbis. Here you're talking about people that have a Torah background. What are they relying on to allow such a business? When you have a history full of blood, full of Jewish blood being spilled because of this business. Not just now in recent history. Then you have the one of the scariest things that's in this tshuva is the words of the Gaon Rabbi Yecheskel Landau. Rabbi Yecheskel Landau says that there's a history of this business. This is already many years ago. And he says that even if you want to charge interest, you're limited. He said you're not really allowed to charge interest from the nations around us that are not Jewish if they're doing good for us. Meaning, if they're not anti-Semitic, if they're allowing you to stay in their country without persecuting you, if they're allowing you to live among them in peace, you're not allowed to charge them interest. Why? Because charging them interest is kfui tova. It's ungratefulness. They believe in God. They believe in the 5 books of Moses. They allow you to live in peace, and you're charging them interest. And not only charging them interest, you're charging them more than the country charges its own people. You're doing 2 evils, says the Rav Landau. 2 evils with this. One is you're charging interest altogether. That in itself is an evil, he says. 2, according to halacha, you're considered din rodef. What's a din rodef? Someone is trying to kill you. Who is he trying to kill? You're trying to kill the Jewish people. Because your actions are going to make our smell stinky in the noses of the goyim. Why? They say, look at these Jews. They own all the banks. They own all the pawn shops. They own all the cash advance businesses. We owe them all this money. Look, he's charging me 80% this month. He's charging me 100%. All the goyim are going to hate the rest of the Jews that are not related to your garbage business. They don't even know anything about your business. They don't even know that you're in that business. But the goy will hate them nonetheless. Why? Because of you. You are a rodef, according to halacha, he says. What's a rodef? If somebody comes to kill you, you have to kill them first. You're allowed to kill them. Now again, we're not saying to kill anybody, chas v'shalom, but what we're trying to tell people here is that you have an entire industry where many people are religious among them. Majority is not an exaggeration. According to Rav Landa, one of the Gdolei Hador, they're all rodfim. This is like a nightmare among nightmares. This is like years ago, we came out with the statistics and all the proofs that the wigs, in essence, if you have a wig that's coming from real hair, it's virtually impossible for that hair not to be connected to the idolatry of India. A lot of people hated that news. You can't challenge it, you can't disprove it because we have statistical facts. We have people in India showing us what's going on over there. But the point is, sometimes people don't want to hear it. No. You're saying that all of the Jewish women, the righteous women, they're sinning. That's not nice to say. What nice? I'm telling you for you. What am I creating this news to make money out of it? I have a hat store or something. I shorted the wigs industry. What do I care about you wearing a wig or not? It doesn't make a difference to me. Same concept here. You have one of the Gedolei Hador saying, person is in the cash advance business. If Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen was next to him, he'd kill him on the spot, just like he killed Zimri. Why? He's considered a rodef. Now, to have an entire industry this way is a very, very big problem. Now, Chachamim bring this in history. Rav Michael HaKohen Baruch, he writes in his Sefer Zichron Av Ubno, page 334, 335, he says, we already know what happened to us in Ukraine. All the horrible things that happened to the Jewish people in Ukraine. Not a lot of people donated a lot of money to help the Ukrainian army and their Jewish president because he loves Judaism so much, even though he voted against us every single time he had the opportunity in the UN. But everyone that actually looked at history knows that we have a very, very bad history with Ukraine. We got tortured worse there than we did by the Nazis. Rav Michael HaKohen Baruch says, what's the reason? One of the reasons. He says, because there were Jews before all the persecution came, the Jews that were over there were charging people 100% interest rates to the Goyim. They were in this business, they were charging people interest, but not 5%, but 10%. He writes in his book, 100% interest rate. You borrow 100% interest, you give me 200. In Morocco, same thing. Morocco Jews, now this is not just the Ashkenazi thing, Moroccan Jews. What do they have anything to do with this business? A lot to do with this business. Why? In history. He says in the years 1873 to 1900, the Jews that came to Morocco, lending money to the Moroccans with high interest, to the point where they hated the Jews because of it. Caused a lot of anti-Semitism. So now you have a situation where history has shown time and time again that this is not a new business, it's just a new name. In the 1100s, late 1100s, in the UK, there was a pogrom against Jews. They murdered a bunch of Jews. The king was protecting them for a while until he left for some vacation. The second he left, literally they murdered thousands of Jews in one day. Why? High interest loans. High interest loans. So this nightmare of a business or industry has caused us a lot of damage. And therefore, when you look at the sages that have written about interest, charging to the goyim, you see that they don't speak very nicely about it. You see, in fact, that they say some very harsh things, similar to what Rav Landau says, that literally this is a business that is not only some consider it 100% gezel, that it's not allowed, you're stealing money from them, but either way they say that this is something that can cause Chilul Hashem, which is the biggest sin you can make, and last but not least, it's something that creates anti-Semitism. Lastly, in his tshuva, Ephraim brings the Maharsha, and he says that a Jew is not allowed to charge interest to the non-Jew, because the non-Jew, as long as the non-Jew is being nice to him, is allowing him to live in peace, like we said before. And in fact, according to halacha, the Jew is obligated to be kind to the non-Jew that's nice to him. If the non-Jew is a Nazi, is an Arab terrorist, he's one of these people, you have no obligation to help him or be kind to him. But if he's nice to you, it doesn't matter where he lives. He can live in America, he can live in England, he can live in Afghanistan. It doesn't make much of a difference. But if he's nice to you, if he's kind to you, according to the Torah, you are obligated to return the kindness to him, and not only not charge him this high interest. The Maharsha says you have to charge him free, no interest, like he's a Jew. Alva belo neshech. That's what you're supposed to do. Now you go tell this to all the bankers and the Wall Streeters and the people in all these types of lending businesses. Yeah, by the way, not only you're not allowed to charge your fellow brothers, you're not allowed to charge them interest, but also the nice goyim, also them you're not allowed to charge interest. What are you going to see? All the keepers go on the floor. All the beards shaved off, everybody's clean cut all of a sudden. He doesn't want to be religious anymore. Why? No, come on, this is too fanatic for me. Now how could it be, the point of all of this is, how could it be that you go to shul, you keep Shabbat, you give tzedakah, your kids go to yeshiva, you went to yeshiva, but you're connected to this evil business? How could it be? How could it be? Ruach Tumah. Ruach Tumah is the only thing that could explain it. You did something wrong somewhere, some unkosher deal, some unkosher relationship, something you did that allowed the Ruach Tumah to come on, and you let it get out of control. Little by little, the non-kosher business became badatz in your eyes. What? I'm making parnasah. You know how much money I donate? I built that yeshiva and that yeshiva. He thinks that all of those yeshivot are mitzvot. He doesn't realize there's Jewish blood that could be spilled because of those yeshivot and the buildings that he's building. Because the Ruach Tumah what is it the Ruach Tumah does then? No, what you're doing is chesed. You're helping the nations by giving them the money that they need, even though they're willing to pay 150% interest. It's not your fault. You're not putting a gun to their head, telling them you have to borrow the money. You're not forcing them. It's not your fault that they want to pay that interest. Nobody else would lend them the money. So you're being extra kind to them by lending them the money. He'll rationalize the most evil thing in the world. The guy doesn't have food to eat, but he comes to you, listen, can you lend me $10,000? Sure, only 300% interest. Okay, fine, just give it to me tomorrow. Okay, no problem. He thinks, oh, see, I'm such a nice guy. I helped this guy get $10,000 so he could eat. That's not helping him. That's trapping him. That's trapping him. That's putting him in a place where he can't get himself out. He can't get himself out. He would have managed getting a few $100s to eat. But to manage to get a few $100s every week to pay your interest, that he's probably not going to manage. He's going to have to continue borrowing more and more money until he eventually pretty much either commits suicide or declares bankruptcy or wins the lotto or some other unusual type of behavior. So now the question is, we know the business is bad. We know that the history of the business is not new. It's something that is as ancient as our people. We know that according to Chachamim, real Chachamim, not your junkyard people that are writing a teriska like everything is allowed as long as you give them maaser. Some guy told me, no, my rabbi is a dayan. He's a dayan in New York and he allowed me to do all this. I said, you're a dayan and you are going to the same place, don't worry. No, we could have a conference call. What conference call? I don't need a conference call. There's no debate. There's no debate. It's like people say, why don't you have a debate with Manis Friedman? There's no debate. He's a kofar. There's no debate. There's nothing to debate here. Oh, why don't you debate the Christians? Why? A debate is only if you can prove what I say wrong. There's no debate. You're an idol worshiper. There's no debate. We don't debate with things that are the polar opposite of us. There's not, what am I looking for, fans? What is this, an entertainment show? We're fighting for the truth to help people get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not to entertain people. There's no debates. Debate is if your life is on the line, like the Ramban. The Ramban didn't want to debate, even though he won the debate in Barcelona. His life was on the line for the rest of his life. We don't debate. It's not a Jewish thing to debate. But all of a sudden, why don't you debate? Why? He's an idol worshiper, he's a heretic, or he's a wicked person. What's their debate? What, do I want to be like him? Do I want to be in the same room as him? What is it you're going to get out of it? Fans. I'm not looking for fans. I'm looking to help people. And that's the problem. People are looking for fans. Sometimes the rabbis are looking for fans. The dayan is looking for fans. So he's willing to write an eteri ska on an agreement that is literally guaranteeing people Gehinnom. And not only those people, but everybody around them is now in jeopardy. Why? Because the second that agreement is signed, the second that contract is signed, the second that person gets the money, that according to the Torah is a sin, all types of demons are created, all of them are allowed to open up their masks and damage whoever's next to that person. Hashem Yishmo. He comes to your shul, you're in danger. He's on your Shabbat table, you're in danger. He's on your bus, you're in danger. He's in your community, you're in danger. Meaning, there is no such thing as, I'm not in the business, what do I care? No, Habibi, you don't understand. He built the building. He's the one who donated Mr. Steve Cash Advance chips. Donated. You're in danger. This is what people don't understand. The damage is for all of us. We're all in a situation where you don't know which way to go, right, left,